All right, Kyle, minutes before we hit the record button, word came down that Mr. Bob Saget passed away. 2022 already off to a horrible start. Was there ever a better on-screen dad than Danny Tanner?
No, because he followed that up with America's Funniest Home Videos, and
I
Home
mean,
Videos is a dad move.
yeah. I mean, did he never, there was zero yelling on that show on Full House. I mean,
Nope.
the kids could do anything they wanted, and then the music would start, and then they'd have a nice little chat. It was beautiful. Here's our music. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. And we are going to discuss another. I mean, does this have the classic in air quotes around it? I don't know. It was darn good, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
A come from behind win in overtime for the Avalanche against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Revenge tastes sweet. So we'll get to all of that. But quickly, first, follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show's YouTube channel over on the YouTube. Just search for Locked On Avalanche and subscribe. All right. Yeah, this was a game we had circled, I think, after they played Toronto the first time.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to see when they were going to play them again, so you could see what was the real situation here. Was Toronto really that good, or the Avalanche just off that day? And I think most of us would say, like, the Avalanche were definitely off that day. They've had so many injuries, I don't remember who they had out that game, but I'm sure they had many guys out that game. Just not a good game on it. So you wanted to see them come back. And it didn't start off all that good. 3 straight goals by Toronto. And then the Avs just start chipping away and chipping away. Ends up going to overtime where Devon Toews puts it away. Incredible game, incredible atmosphere. Thoughts on the game overall?
Yeah. To your point, it was one of those games. It was the worst game the Avs have had to this point. Was that first matchup with Toronto? So it's kind of like an ex-girlfriend thing. Like you're starting to do good and you're like feeling good about yourself, but then you're going to have to see her at some point, and you're like, okay, let's see what we do against this one. And then you start out just the same way, and you're like, she's better than me. Everything I've done is just to nothing at this point. But that's how it felt at the beginning of that game. Like everything looked wrong. And then it was like, maybe Toronto's really that good. But then they started turning it around, and it's something we've talked about. Like, I just have I don't know how to process this game.
Okay. Like it's in what capacity? Like, because it was so like Jekyll and Hyde for the Avalanche. Like you wanted to see them kind of perform the way that they did against Florida, and like that game was a classic because both teams were going at it for 60 minutes. This was one team was in control for a good chunk of the game. The other one had to fight back and claw. Those are good games too. That's a good comeback story. I think the Panthers game was an instant classic because of that, because it was just a dogfight the entire way. This was what you love to see when you're on the end of a victory like this. But yeah, you didn't look good for well, I should say this. They started off pretty hot.
Yeah.
And they had a really good scoring chance. I think it was Tyson Jost who it was Abe Kubel who fought for the puck behind the net and hit Tyson Jost kind of, he was beelining it right down the slot. Had a good look, but Campbell was it's so funny to say, like, when the Avs score 5 goals that the goalie of the opposition looked good.
Yeah.
But he did. They got a good one over there. Obviously, that's no secret, but the Avs had to fight for everything, and they put up, I think, officially 49, but we're just going to say 50 because it sounds better.
Of course.
Yeah. So 49 shots on goal against the second best defensively ranked team in the league. The Avs are doing this against good teams, against good goalies, against good defensemen. And they're not just scoring 2 or 3 goals. They're scoring 7, 5. Like this is a tough team to beat. I'm talking about the Avalanche right now, and it's going to be a tough team to beat over the course of a playoff series.
Yeah, and it's like walking away from it, you can feel good that the Avalanche were able to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in a major come behind fashion. They had every reason to give up, every reason to throw their hands, and every time we've mentioned this matchup earlier last week, you always said, well, it's not a division game. Like when I talked about putting Frankie in, it's not a division game. Like, and that's understandable. But the way we started, we looked terrible. The defense looked bad and bad enough to pull Darcy. It took forever for the offense to get clicking. And by the end of it, Toronto, they're the running joke for letting up leads. Like they let up the 4-1 lead to Boston, and now they just continue that running joke. And you don't know if this is Toronto being Toronto or if this is Colorado being Colorado. Like it's hard to get your bearings on it, but when you look back at it, the Avalanche had every reason to give up and say, okay, we'll focus on Seattle. This one's just not for us, especially with Campbell playing out of his mind. But the Avalanche didn't give up and climbed all the way back and won in overtime. And those are things that we're not accustomed to when it comes to the Avalanche, especially last year. Coming back from behind was not our forte, and especially overtime. So those are 2 keys that we addressed and we can move on from. But it's still a weird game when you think about it in the whole.
Yeah. No, giving up leads was a thing that the Avalanche were known for, especially in the third period. No, this was a hard fought win. And yeah, it didn't, I'm sitting there thinking this team is just not built that way, that they're just going to say, we'll just throw in the towel. Especially because you don't want to lose handily to the same team both times you face them in the course of a season. Because then if it did happen again, and then you do get to, you're lucky enough to get the Stanley Cup final against them, that is all you will hear. And I know you can tune that out. And I know players, a lot of them can, a lot of them will, but even if they're not listening to it in the media, they're thinking it internally. Like we played these guys twice and they manhandled us twice. So they're not built that way to just sit and kind of take it. And the interesting thing is, this is where you want your stars to rise up. And okay, we're getting beat, but you get that goal in the first, the Nathan McKinnon goal. He was the first one, right? Yeah, he was the first one. And then that gets you back in, like at least that gets you something. And then that you ride that, and you can ride that, and that first line again looked great. So from the Avalanche standpoint, you're behind, and you rely on your stars to get you back in, which they did. Conversely, on Toronto's end, their stars got them in the lead, and then they disappeared. So it's like, why you need them, talking about the Toronto side point, you need them to take it back and continue that lead. And the Avs just completely kind of flipped the script on this. But that's what happens for good teams when they get down. They make adjustments, and there was adjustments to be made clearly. And then once the Avs made the adjustments, I just seemed like Toronto was just kind of shell-shocked. And Sheldon Keefe said it after the game. The head coach for Toronto said that was the loudest building we played in all season.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that just struck them. You're getting excuses online about the altitude. I don't want to hear that for a second. Like, shut up with that nonsense. It was just a solid come from behind victory from a team that said, we are not going to quit. This team is not built to go that route. And they kept fighting, and they have the team to do. They have the team and the talent to come back when you're down 3 goals on 2 separate occasions.
Yeah, and to the loudness factor, like, you got to realize Toronto, when they play at home, there's no one there. And So this
Yeah.
is it's a night and day adjustment when it comes to that. And like when you were talking about the Stars not showing up for Toronto, they took their foot off the gas, and it conversely helped us because Nathan McKinnon did old school Nathan McKinnon things to get us in there. Landeskog got back in there doing what he does. And then for the two long-standing leaders on the team to step up in that moment and have that never say die attitude, that speaks volumes. It took advantage of Toronto, admittingly taking their foot off the gas and just kind of coasting to a win.
Could have been Toronto's just like, we're doing this again to them. So maybe we just have their number. And it turned out not to be the case. All right, more to talk about. But first, we're going to hear from Built Bar, and it is the new year. So that means the New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in that plan. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar and maybe even better than a candy bar. It makes it easier to stick to your New Year's resolutions. If you want it to stay healthy, but it just gets so boring around week 3, you might be thinking it's just not worth it. Where is the chocolate? Well, Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate. They're unlike any other protein bar, which can be chalky or waxy or taste like what?
Chemical spill.
A chemical spill. And most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. So go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off of your order. Once again, that promo code is LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right. And Kyle, you ordered some, you got a shipment on the way.
I got 2 big old boxes coming right to me.
Yeah. So hide them from the kids.
You betcha.
All right. So for the Darcy Kuemper haters, this is a haven for them to just kind of gloat. Gets taken out, allows 3 goals on 9 shots. Pablo Francouz came in, did a very good job. Did an excellent job. Only gave up 1 goal after that and kept the Avs in it. Did what he needed to do in reserve. And even Jared Bednar said in the postgame, like, he's not putting any of those goals on Darcy Kuemper.
Yeah.
He did it just because he felt his team was incredibly flat, had nothing to provide, and needed to kind of jumpstart the team. That's the only reason he did it. And it worked, obviously. But do you think this still kind of rings internally for Kuemper? Do you feel like it's a big game in the sense of like what we talked about, because you're going up against one of the elite teams. So yeah, you want to perform well in that setting. And he got taken out because nobody performed well.
Yeah.
But do you feel like he's feeling that? Do you feel like he's feeling that way?
I honestly don't, especially like we talk about it all the time. Darcy's always that happy-go-lucky guy. And you saw him, they took that little shot of him on the bench, and he was like kind of upbeat. And I feel like it was one of those pulls that the defense, and you could kind of tell when Frankie went in there that the defense, like, they really tightened up. They were really dragging, and just those 3 goals initially on Darcy were defensive problems, and there were turnovers and giveaways. It's not on Darcy, and I'm pretty sure when he got to that bench, they said, "Hey, we're going to fix this."
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when he took him out, the defense was thinking, well, Kuemper was probably thinking like, that's on me, and the defense was like, no, that's on us.
Yeah,
the defense is like, our goalie got pulled because of us, not because of him. And it was horrible. Like, they could not clear a puck. It was, and they had at that point, just take the icing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know you've been out there for a little while, but you're in good shape. Just ice the puck. And they were trying to just, like shuffleboard it out a couple times just to get it past the blue line. That's not going to do anything.
No.
They're just going to collect the puck and go right back in. And maybe you're able to get 2 guys on a line change. I know you want to get that wholesale line change, but it just wasn't happening. So just ice the puck, try to win the draw, see what happens. That's where I texted you and you were like, I hate Toronto. And I'm like, they are damn good. They are looking mighty good right now. And I thought we were going to be in for a long night.
Yeah.
So this is where I credit the Avs for kind of turning things around, because Toronto was doing whatever they wanted to do in that first period after like the first 3 minutes where the Avs looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's one of those, like the Toronto and their pressure and how they were looking with our defense. There's a thing when if you're mentally beat, you can address that in the intermission. If you're physically beat, it locks in that mentally beat all game long. And you saw that early, that they were just getting outmanned. Like their positioning was right where every puck we wanted to put, there was a Maple Leaf standing right there.
Yeah.
And you could see it was starting to wear on them. And yeah, to take an icing would have been wonderful. But getting us to the faceoff dot, as you could see by the stats, was not a great idea.
That's rough. Yeah, 65% to 35%, was it?
Yeah,
yeah.
Like ugly. You can't. That's one of the glaring things like that in the power play. That's not good. But you got to do something. And unfortunately, Darcy was the scapegoat in this. And Francouz came in there and did what he had to do. But the defense can't play like that, especially when it comes to playoff time.
And I didn't like the first goal that Avalanche superstar Alex Kerfoot put home. That was poor defense because I don't know why Johnson is sliding there. He's taking a head first dive to try to drive. That man is taken. Yeah, I think it was Girard who had the man who had
he was going. I think he was making the play. And EJ was
Bunting
sliding.
Had the assist, so I think Girard was covering Bunting. He's covered.
Yeah,
stay on your man, stay on Kerfoot. But he decided to do this dive to try to block the puck. And if you're if it's 2-on-1 and you're the only one there, that's when I kind of get that. You didn't need to do it there, and that was the first goal. And you're like, oh man, like that's the last thing you wanted to happen. And then Austin Matthews just does Austin Matthews things, 2 in a row for him. He's awesome. Like he's just so good.
It scored a goal that was almost the exact same as the first game, where he kind of like backwards drags all the way across the goal crease and takes that same shot. Like if we have to face him again later on down the road, we're going to know you want to protect that blue paint. But it was bad, and it really stung that the same goal was scored on us twice.
Yeah. So then, you get down 3-0, and then, the McKinnon goal brings it 3-1, and then you get down 4-1, and then the Cale Makar goal, which was just filthy. Again, that was kind of Nathan McKinnon-esque. He's kind of skating to his left and then shoots right on the goal.
Yeah.
That's so tough to do, and he just makes it look so simple. And
then instantly turns around and points at Abe Kubel, and he's just like, "That's on you.
That's you."
On
yeah.
You. Yeah.
No, that's when they started having good shifts.
Yeah.
You started to feel better about you just started feeling better about how they were playing. Like they weren't just giving up everything anymore. They started to kind of be the enforcers, but you still felt like, man, like we're not going to be able to crack Campbell 4 more times to beat this. And that save he had, that diving save, like a shortstop, was just incredible. Like I was impressed. Like I said, it's tough to say, like, a guy who gave up that many goals, it's on the goalie. It's totally not on the goalie. He played excellent. And then the one mistake he had, which you can't fault any goalie for doing this, when Mikko Rantanen's got the puck behind the net and he just blind passes it to JT Compher, that kind of went off his backside just ever so slightly to go, and he's looking in the opposite direction thinking Mikko's going that way. Peter McNabb kept talking about it. He's like, I'm looking to see where Mikko notices Compher is behind him, and knowing if he can get the puck, he can just, I don't think he did. I don't think he ever saw Compher. I think he just either just luck past it or just said, I know my teammates well enough that there should be someone there, so I'm just going to take a chance on it, which in the sense is kind of the same thing as just a luck pass, but it made him look like a magician.
Yeah.
The pass was beautiful.
And for Campbell to perform at the level he is, like I watched this game on Hockey Night in Canada on Sportsnet to hear behind enemy lines what they were saying about the Avalanche.
Yeah.
And to hear their, because you got to think Freddie Anderson was the goalie for the Leafs last year, and Jack Campbell was the backup. So he's playing this year with a little bit of adrenaline, like, I won this job. This is my spot.
Yeah.
And you see him doing those, overperforming for those goals. And the broadcast was very much like touting the Leafs and everything they're doing. And Campbell is incredible. And he might be what's fixing this team. And then you watch the Avalanche coming back, it starts getting quiet. And like that's when you the what you heard on Twitter about the altitude being an issue, that's where it originated. They talked about that 150 times.
Every away team can talk about that. It's no mystery. And the Avs would be undefeated at home every single year if it was that much of an issue. But
yeah,
and so would every other team in Denver. So.
Yeah.
All right, a little bit more to get to, including the overtime. So let's hear from Bet Online. BetOnline.ag would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march towards the NFL playoffs. Next week, some NFL playoffs begin. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's a new year and a new updated desktop and mobile website. And you go there and you sign up, and you'll receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code Locked On to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet and wager on all of your favorite sports. It's where the game starts. It's betonline.ag. So pretty exciting end to the game after the Avs tied it. You had some penalties getting called. You had an embellishment get called. You had Kadri with, and I'm not going to say, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if either one of those should be called at that stage in the game. But wow, you don't really see an embellishment all that much, but Avs had a power play. Couldn't get anything on any power play, really. What were they? 0 for 4? 0 for 4.
Golden sombrero.
Yeah. So, we go to overtime, and maybe I'm changing my tune a little bit on the Avs in OT. At least the last couple games have, the Makar goal and then this Devon Toews goal.
Yeah.
Avs are turning it around when they get to the extra frame and getting the extra point.
And it kind of is one of those, I'll be straight up, I did not feel like the Avalanche were going to walk out of there with a W during that game. And
it's tough. You put a lot of effort in coming back, and then you get to overtime, and you kind of just feel like we got to do this. Like we got to put in all this extra effort again to get the extra goal. It's a lot. Yeah. It's taxing.
And you're sitting there just anticipating what you know, but for the Avalanche to come out there, and this is 2 overtimes in a row where they impress you in overtime, and it's something you're like, you sit there like me and you kind of dread because you know, like, oh, we don't do good in these positions, and who are they going to send out there? Right now, how the Avs are firing, it doesn't matter who you get out there. And like they are, McDermott doesn't need to be in overtime.
Yeah, right. But I will say this, like the face-offs, some people think like face-offs, it doesn't matter if you win or lose a face-off. To me, if you're in the defensive zone, you want to win those. If you're in a zone, I'll say that, you want to win a face-off because you want possession, clearly. Center ice face-offs, the 3 that happen at the beginning of each period, in the grand scheme, it don't matter.
No.
In overtime, it matters.
Yes.
And go back and watch Gabe Landeskog. He's losing his footing. He wins the faceoff in the sense that the puck's going in the Avalanche direction, but he's kind of losing his footing. And I don't know if it was Matthews that was on him, and he's falling down, and he just shuffleboard passes the puck back. That was huge because that you gain possession. And then the Avalanche, they had a couple chances and it didn't happen. Toronto comes back and, they had a pretty good opportunity and they didn't get anything. But the thing that I can't believe didn't happen, Matthews stayed out.
Yeah.
Matthews played every minute of that overtime and it only went a couple minutes, but that's a long shift. And they took advantage of it. They kind of had a little give and go. And when you look at that, Toews is coming up on the left side. Not McKinnon. Rantanen is wide open. Obviously, it's 3-on-3 for a one-timer. I thought that's where the pass was going. And Toews is just like, I'm going to end this bad boy right now. Great shot. Great play to kind of have like a pick and roll almost in basketball terms. fantastic play, well designed to pick on Austin Matthews, who was gassed and could have easily taken himself out on the ship, but he didn't.
Yeah, and I think it comes to a lot of the veteran knowledge that Devon Toews has, because if you've seen how Campbell was robbing the Avs all night long when it comes post to post, it's one of those that in that moment you wonder if he kind of knew, if I go like the cross crease pass to Mikko, if this is just a rob and they flip the ice and go the other way, if he just decides take the shot, if we can at least get a rebound.
Right? Yeah, because rebounds are, you have more space to go collect it when it's 3-on-3 than opposed to 5-on-5. And you're right. And if he passes it and Mikko just airmails one and it loops around the board and it goes right back in the other direction, anything can happen. So in my mind, I'm like, pass it. But Toews, I think, that's why he's in the NHL.
You got to take those smarter plays when you're playing 3-on-3.
Yeah. And that sealed it for the Avs. So man, a solid win, just a great solid win. Good 2 points. Avs are still rolling. Now Seattle comes into town for the first time ever. I mean, what do we expect from Seattle? Do you think Grubauer is going to play? Will Donskoy? I mean, does Donskoy have? I don't think he has a goal unless he scored within the last couple of days. Will Donskoy get his first goal of the season against the Avalanche? What's going to happen here? I really hope the Avs don't lay a dud after that game, or the last 2 games actually.
What I want most of all, in one net, you have Philip Grubauer staring across Pavel Francouz.
That's a good question too. Go ahead.
You have Pavel Francouz staring down Philip Grubauer. All of the conversation we've had for the past 2 years, we get to see it in fantasy warfare.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the 2 camps were loud and divisive when it came to the Avalanche, like who should be your 1A goalie the past 2 years. Well, now we get to see it. And I think this is one of those that if we do get Grubauer, if he doesn't find some way not to play us,
right,
I feel like he's going to play with a little bit of emotion, a little bit of edge. And I feel like Ball Arena is going to be in his head. Could the Avalanche capitalize on that? We've seen them do it, but can we do it tonight against Seattle? But that's me playing. That's what I want to see, is Frankie versus Grub, the battle to end all battles. But what do I know?
What about I mean the goalie situation? Do you think it's still going to be Frankie, or do you think, because the Avs are going back to back, so it's the Kraken and then it is the Predators?
Yeah.
I mean, you could go any direction here, but I don't. The Avs didn't anticipate Francouz playing as much as he did in Toronto. Clearly, I know you had the day off, so he should be well rested. I would still go with him. I'd still go with him. It'd be a good story, like you're saying. Going up against Grubauer if Grubauer does play, and then you give Kemper another day off, and he's ready for the division game against Nashville.
Exactly.
That's the route I would go.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's kind of what they're going to do?
I hope that's the route they go, because Nashville is another team that embarrassed us like Toronto. So you want our best foot forward. So rest Darcy and Kipper, because Nashville is a problem, and we need Darcy 100% for that one.
Yeah. And this is another home game for the Avs, and they're on a roll at home. Was that 11 in a row they got? 11 in a row? Or
that's the record.
Yeah. Or is they're tied for the record now, right? Or they got the record?
They got the record. They were tied for the record at 10. I think they got it with 11.
That was I for some reason I thought the record was 11, but I don't know.
You know what?
I don't care. I don't care.
Let's be right with a win.
Yeah, I know. Just keep whatever, keep the record going is what
exactly
I want to do. So, and you don't want to lose it against the Kraken of all teams. So these are games you are better than this team. Impose your will. Don't give them any hope or feel like they have some momentum going here. Shut it down ASAP and run away with this thing. You are the highest scoring team in the league. Don't make this a 2-1 game that it sees you fighting to get 2 points.
Yeah.
Blow them out.
Don't be TJ Watt and do all that work and tie the record, and that's it.
That's garbage. He's got an extra game. I don't even want to hear it. No, there's no record. That's a record with are they doing that stuff? They should be.
Well, he missed 2 games, so they're still going with it.
Oh, he did miss. Okay, see, I didn't know that part of it. Okay, it's impressive.
It's impressive.
I stand corrected. All right, but that will be it for us today, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow talking about the Kraken coming to town and what can the Avs do about it. So that's going to be it. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. Go check out Locked On NHL for your second listen of the day. Get caught up on everything going around the league. That's going to wrap it up. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.